In 2017, there was a report released by Antonio Seba, an energy and transportation disruption expert, that predicted most Americans would not own a car by 2030. Instead, they will have an autonomous vehicle service ready to take them whenever and wherever they choose. His report goes on to say that the number of passenger cars will drop by 80%, with 60% of the remaining vehicles on the road belonging to fleet operators. Now, just a few years later, he thinks the timeline is only accelerating. And with the current climate of COVID-19 and public transit options being riskier than normal, you might be able to make an argument that Americans will buy more personal vehicles, but I think this is an even more compelling case for an autonomous vehicle service. A service that can be disinfected thoroughly between every ride. It's still cheaper than owning a car and less exposure to the general public than taking a bus or subway would be. So, based on the current fragmentation in the AV landscape, you can see there are quite a few major market participants. So you can bet this report caught more than a few eyes. Automotive leaders are faced with the inevitable that previous physical goods industries have already had to grapple with, expanding their physical goods business to also include service-based businesses. Instead of just making a physical product, distributing it to their distributors, and being done, they must now foster an ongoing direct relationship with the customer that continues to retain and earn their business with each interaction. To make the most of the opportunities, business owners need to focus more on the growth aspects in the faster growing segments while maintaining their positions in the slower growing segments. I should know, I was the product owner of several of Disney's direct-to-consumer video streaming services. Hi, my name is Jody Tyree, and I'm currently the product owner in charge of entertainment and advertising for Ford's autonomous vehicle fleet, but I like to call them robot cars. But back in 2009, I launched the first of Disney's D2C content distribution initiatives, and 10 years later, they finally debuted Disney+. Those early product development days were foundational to figuring out this new direct relationship with the customer, as well as evolving the existing relationships with the more traditional distributors like Walmart and Amazon. All that work set Disney up for their digital future because the same thing happened to them. They too saw a decline in people buying their physical goods, in their case, DVDs and Blu-rays. And now look at them. They have aggregated the entire company's digital content under one business unit that now runs Disney+. So here I am doing it again for Ford AV. Today, I'm going to talk about how a product owner such as myself figures out what to create in order to foster this new ongoing relationship with the customer, as well as continue to support and satisfy business goals and leverage the latest technical capabilities without getting lost in shiny object syndrome. So usually a project begins with a business need to either recapture a declining market or to make up margins lost by supporting the development of a new market. And in our case, my CEO, John Lawler, recently said in a blog post, "We're building a safe, scalable, and trusted self-driving service. However, this is no small task. It's also not a cheap one." There are several ways to offset costs of just developing this technology. For example, we recently announced the joint venture with Volkswagen to join us in the partnership with Argo. However, we will remain fiercely competitive and look at every aspect of the business for opportunity, not only to monetize, but to build that relationship with the customer and always offer something of value. The increased use of digital signage on and in these AVs will offer immense growth opportunities. Now that there are no longer steering wheels in the cars, passengers can regain all that previously spent time paying attention to the road back on themselves. Now, depending on where you live in the world and what your commute is like, that can be a significant part of your life. So I used to fight LA traffic every day for 20 years before moving to Detroit. To go 12 miles, it took me between 45 minutes and an hour and a half each way. That's up to 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week, 60 hours a month, and 750 hours a year of my life I would get back. And I am just one person in a sea of millions, and that's just on the 405. Sorry, LA freeway jokes told here. So if that doesn't sound like an opportunity for immense growth, I don't know what does. So I can't reveal what we are planning on doing with these digital displays, but I can tell you how I'm planning to get there. So we've already defined we have a business need, so now it's time to think about the consumer. And as I think through the customer experience, there are a few rules of thumb I always adhere to and hold as my North Star. I look at who the product is for. I define my customer. And in the beginning, I only look at mass market use cases. Why? Because mass market is where the money is. You're not going to make up your margins serving niches. You always have to keep the business in mind. Okay, so I've defined who it's for. Next, I focus on the key problem to solve. If you are not solving a problem, then your product isn't going to get used. So why does this person need my product? Then I define the customer's key benefit. This is their reason to use or buy your product and their results after you have solved that problem for them. After that, in terms of usability, I look for the lowest friction ways of delivering the product or service as possible. Customers, for the most part, are very lean back. They don't want to think too much, and they certainly don't want to fill out a bunch of forms and type. And why should they? You're solving a problem for them, aren't you? Now, the third pillar of this balancing act is technology. When it comes to technology, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And this is where shiny object syndrome has to be kept at bay. So does everyone know that term? It is the tendency for someone to chase something new, usually just because it is new, rather than staying focused on the goal. Now, I run into this a lot when it comes to technology. I get pitched a lot of things, but I balance it out with what problem will this solve for my customer? And how will this new capability be monetized? If I get a no on either one of those answers, it's just not a fit. Move on. Now, the converse is you do have to make sure the idea you're cooking up is technically feasible. So I always like to bring my technical leads into the fold and validate, and revalidate that it is not only possible, but that we also have the talent and the resources to pull it off. The product owner is always performing a constant evaluation of business goals, customer needs, and technological abilities. By keeping focused on the prize, that mass market use case, and solving a problem for those customers, it is a bulletproof way of determining what to build. When I did this for Disney, we wanted to sell more digital movies. Customers wanted a way to always have access to their movies, no matter what device or digital storefront they bought it from. And we developed a proprietary technology to facilitate that need. Holding that North Star of solving a key problem, continuing to iterate and expand the service, made them an eventual digital content juggernaut. I launched Disney Movies Online in 2009 and then Disney Movies Anywhere in 2014. I teed up Movies Anywhere before I left later that year, and now Disney Plus launched in 2019. So it seems to be working out pretty well. So as you walk away from this talk today and begin to think about your own business, I hope you will think like a product owner. Always solve a problem for your customer. Make sure there is a way to monetize with opportunities for growth, and stick to leveraging the technology that will help you get there, not just because it's cool. I hope you'll keep an eye on us over at Ford AV. As my focus is on entertainment and advertising, I can assure you I have some FOMO services in the works like I can hardly wait for you to try. Thank you so much for joining me and for your time today.